Steve Martin was a prop comic.
He was?
Yeah, he came out with an arrow through his head.
Mm-hmm.
And people found that funny.
Steve Martin, also. That's what he just said. Oh, he said that. Harpo Marx, also.
Wait a minute, Stugotz, what just happened there? Stugotz,
I wasn't listening to.
That is the least amount of listening. We have got to play that back. You have got to cut that up, and we are going to come back and shame Stugotz with it next. All right, because I think that what you did last segment is disrespecting our show. Now, before we go down this path, like, this was amazing. Like, Stugotz is famous for not listening. Just a terrible listener. But I believe he broke the record for not listening with this clip. Like, I don't think you understand, because you weren't listening, how exactly this played out, where you threw a camouflage bomb out there to pretend that you were listening.
Right.
And then followed it up by saying the same thing that had just been said.
I do it all the time, though. It's kind of like a bridge from Mike back to you and just keeps the show moving. But I have a feeling I screwed this one up.
Wait till you hear this, okay? Because I don't feel like anybody, generally speaking, people listen to radio pretty passively. I would put this in the Guinness World Book of World Records for not listening.
Steve Martin was a prop comic.
He was?
Yeah, he came out with an arrow through his head.
Mm-hmm.
And people found that funny.
Steve Martin, also. Oh, he said that.
Like, that was amazing. That was a magic act from you where you pretended to be listening in the conversation, but you were not listening. Listen to that again, because it's amazing.
Steve Martin was a prop comic.
He was?
Yeah, he came out with an arrow through his head.
Mm-hmm.
And people found that funny.
Steve Martin, also.
How is that possible?
I don't know.
Like, you were right there. You did a great masking job of pretending like you were listening to the conversation. You exhibited genuine surprise at the revelation that Steve Martin was a prop comic.
But I can't tell you how many times I've done that throughout the years, and I just listen for keywords like Steve Martin, and then I don't repeat them, but this time I screwed up.
Okay, but you don't absorb them either, because you reacted with genuine surprise. Really? Steve Martin? And then Mike Ryan gave you an explanation. Yes, remember the arrow in his head. And you say, and then look what you nominate.
Steve Martin was a prop comic.
He was?
Yeah, he came out with an arrow through his head.
Mm-hmm.
And people found that funny.
Steve Martin, also.
It's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
But is it?
No, and totally believable. Unbelievable and not surprising at all.
I mean, even for you, dude.
That's amazing.
That was tough.
That is just magic, what just happened there.
Yeah.
Organic magic.
Mm-hmm.
From the fertilizer and the crap that we do every day, sometimes you get a beautiful flower spring up that smells like sewage and bad radio, and it's got Stugotz's smiling face on it.
Steve Martin was a prop comic.
He was?
Yeah, he came out with an arrow through his head.
Mm-hmm.
And people found that funny.
Steve Martin, also.
I mean, and like the genuine surprise, the pretend agreement listening, and then followed with the unearthing of a revelation.
Steve Martin was a prop comic.
He was?
Yeah, he came out with an arrow through his head.
Mm-hmm.
And people found that funny.
Steve Martin, also.
Unbelievable. And totally believable.
I wish I expanded there. Hey, the arrow in his head.
I Juan Wiener.
Oh, man.
We will talk to you mañana. This was the Dan LeBatard Show on ESPN Radio.
I want to watch Face Off now. The movie rocked.
Yeah.
Movie was terrible.
No, the prison with the magnets.
We've already covered this. The only good movie ever that involved a plot twist that involved someone peeling their own face off was Hannibal Lecter, Silence of the Lambs. That's it. That closes the category. There has never been another movie. By the way, spoiler alert. There's never been another movie that involves the peeling off of a face that's been any good.
Come on, Face Off.
Face Off, not Mission
awesome.
Impossible.
No. Silence of the Lambs. There was a peeling.
That's the only.
Okay.
Yes.
Stugotz!
Wow.
Stugotz!
Grazie.
Stugotz, I just said that!
You did? I was checking to see if Brian Williams is anchoring the news tonight.
Stugotz!
Steve Martin's a prop comic.
Stugotz!
You said Silence of the Lambs?
Get the Steve Martin prop comic thing, and then we'll cut up the other one. We'll bring back Tim Brown in a second. Unbelievable what just happened there. Stugotz does not listen to the show. It's unbelievable. I'm talking right in his face.
Well,
I'm talking right to him. Stugotz, don't make excuses. You weren't listening.
I wasn't listening. No excuses. Can't wait to hear this. Steve Martin was a prop comic.
You might have just knocked off. This goes in the Hall of Fame.
Well, there's been 3 now.
No, but this right here. So far, this is the winner, the Hall of Fame, the first ballot Hall of Famer for Stugotz not listening to the show.
Steve Martin was a prop comic.
He was?
Yeah, he came out with an arrow through his head.
Mm-hmm.
And people found that funny.
Steve Martin also.
That's what you just said.
Oh, he said that.
I think this one that just happened is better. We're going to come back with it and Tim Brown next.
This is the Dan LeBatard Show on ESPN Radio.
Before we get to this, I need a winner. I need Tim Brown to pick a winner for us, okay? Yes. Tim, thank you for joining us as always, and congratulations on making the Hall of Fame. But you've got to decide this for us. Stugotz is famous for not listening to the radio show here that he co-hosts. So we're going to give you 3 examples of Stugotz not listening where it's clear he's not listening. We're going to give you 3 examples, and we're going to have you vote for whichever one it is that you think is the worst example of him being terrible at his job. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, here's the first.
Steve Martin was a prop comic.
He was?
Yeah, he came out with an arrow through his head.
Mm-hmm.
And people found that funny.
Steve Martin also.
That's what you just said.
Oh, he said that.
Okay, that's number 1. That's your first. That's your first nominee. Oh, I believe in you, though, Stugotz. I think you'll believe that. Here is your second option. And the way he does the math is shaded, depending on whether you have Geno Smith or Aaron Rodgers.
Right, and Greg, he also goes on to say that, listen, if you have Aaron Rodgers, obviously your strategy is different than if you have a lesser quarterback. And if you're playing with Geno Smith or someone like that, then maybe you don't go for it.
I just said that. Yeah. And
well, before we get to the last one, Tim, which one has your vote right now? Just before we get to the last one.
I think number 1 has my vote right now.
All right, let's see if this just happened last segment, so let's see which one Tim Brown votes for now. The only good movie ever that involved a plot twist that involved someone peeling their own face off was Hannibal Lecter's Silence of the Lambs. That's it. There's never been another movie that involves the peeling off of a face that's been any good.
Come on, Face Off.
Face Off, not Mission Impossible.
No. Silence of the Lambs. There was a peeling
That's
of
the only.
Okay.
Yes!
Tim.
Oh, my God. What is going on out there?
It's unbelievable.
I'm going on, but what's your vote here?
Yeah, I think number 3 is going to take it.
It's unbelievable. I don't understand how this happens. Mike Ryan, scared, incompetent executive producer who is often pooping his own skeleton. Do we have a new Stugotz Doesn't Listen Hall of Fame king? Do we indeed? Which one would you vote? I'm going to go around the room here. We're going to play the 3, and I'm going to go around the room.
No, you go ahead and do it. I don't want to sway the voting here. But I do want to tell you which one hurt the most. Okay, for me at the end after everyone votes. Okay,
all right, file that away.
Okay.
This is Stugotz Doesn't Listen Part 1.
Steve Martin was a prop comic.
He was?
Yeah, he came out with an arrow through his head.
Mm-hmm.
And people found that funny.
Steve Martin also.
That's what you just said.
Oh, he said that. I'll never get past Guillermo saying that.
That's amazing. I mean, that one's just amazing.
Yeah.
Let's hear another one. And the way he does the math is shaded, depending on whether you have Geno Smith or Aaron Rodgers.
Right, and Greg, he also goes on to say that, listen, if you have Aaron Rodgers, obviously your strategy is different than if you have a lesser quarterback. And if you're playing with Geno Smith or someone like that, then maybe you don't go for it.
I just said that.
Well, I transitioned that one into saying, yeah, right, like agreeing with you.
I know, I'm not listening at all. And here, Your Honor, is Exhibit C. Exhibit C in this it's just unbelievable. Stugotz Doesn't Listen. The only good movie ever that involved a plot twist that involved someone peeling their own face off was Hannibal Lecter's Silence of the Lambs. That's it. There's never been another movie that involves the peeling off of a face that's been any good.
Come on, Face Off.
Face Off, not Mission
awesome.
Impossible.
No. Silence of the Lambs. There was a peeling.
That's the only.
Okay.
Yes!
Stugotz!
Wow!
I don't want to say anything. I'll let the guys vote
All
first.
right, Mike, who gets your vote for the winner, the king of Stugotz Doesn't Listen?
I'm going to go with Steve Martin prop comic because we had a back and forth. He was like, yeah, clearly.
Yeah. Roy, who does your vote go to?
Steve Martin, because he just pretended to hear Mike saying it.
Yes, he was pretending. Guillermo, how about you?
Geno Smith.
Really?
Wow, really?
Geno Smith, because he repeated it the other way, totally different. How about you, Chris?
I like today's.
Yeah.
I vote for today's.
Yeah.
I I have ruled that today's is the greatest achievement in the history of Stugotz not listening.
Today's hurt the most.
Because?
Today's hurt the most because we've had that conversation so many times on the air, and I wasn't listening, but we've had the conversation so many times that I should have known that you said Silence of the Lambs, and yet I walked right into it. The Steve Martin thing, I just straight wasn't listening, and the Geno Smith thing, I clearly wasn't listening. But this is a conversation, the one we just had, was one that we've had a million times on this show.
Can we listen to it one more time? Because I think there's a part that really makes me smile there where Stugotz realizes what happened and there's a noise.
From today's, you're saying? Okay.
The only good movie ever that involved a plot twist that involved someone peeling their own face off was Hannibal Lecter, Silence of the Lambs. That's it. There's never been another movie that involves the peeling off of a face that's been any good.
Come on, Face
not
Off.
Face Off, not
is
Mission
awesome.
Impossible.
No. Silence of the Lambs, there was a peeling
That's
of
the only.
Okay.
Yes! Yes!
Stugotz!
Wow.
I love everything happening there where I'm mortified and disgusted and yelling at you, but in front of me, Mike Ryan is celebrating. Mike Ryan said, yes!
Oh, we needed a third.
We got another one. We got another one.
No. I got one that's totally different than what you're talking about. Silence of the Lambs. The no.
No, but Mike, do you want to change your vote, Mike? Because you celebrated like a hunter who had caught something.
One more time.
Yes!
It's the no.
The only good movie ever that involved a plot twist that involved someone peeling their own face off was Hannibal Lecter, Silence of the Lambs. That's it. There's never been another movie that involves the peeling off of a face that's been any good.
Come on, Face Off.
Face Off, not
is
Mission
awesome.
Impossible.
No. Silence of the Lambs, there was a peeling
That's
of
the only.
Okay.
Yes!
Stugotz!
Wow.
What was I laughing at, by the way? You mean laughing? I was laughing at.
What is that at the end? It sounds like you felt like you got punched. Like, what was that? Oh!
One more time, though. In fairness, let's
been
see if it holds up with the Steve
I feel
Martin.
like I got punched. I've been trying to avoid
This
these
is our new
situations.
ruler right here. This is the new king of Stugotz doesn't listen, and it finishes with Stugotz making a sound. No. The only good movie ever that involved a plot twist that involved someone peeling their own face off was Hannibal Lecter, Silence of the Lambs. That's it. There's never been another movie that involves the peeling off of a face that's been any good.
Come on, Face Off.
Face Off, not
is
Mission
awesome.
Impossible.
No. Silence of the Lambs, there was a peeling
That's
of
the only.
Okay.
Yes!
Stugotz!
Wow.
We will talk to you mañana. This was the Dan LeBatard Show on ESPN Radio.